Yeah, today we're going to reply to the question, what the biggest trend affecting the mobile gaming industry. Brief introduction of the company. I just want to ask you, who use a penny? Who know what is a penny? Okay. We start in 2010. And we concentrate on mobile, and so it's the next generation after the TV and web analytics. We have 10 offices worldwide. The main headquarter is San Francisco, but initially we're from Beijing. We still a startup. We raised 39 million US from the list of investors. The main one is Sequoia Capital, so we are the family of Sequoia. And our main European office is in London, but we have also Amsterdam R&D center and Moscow office to work with our clients in Eastern Europe. Here is the list of main our clients who use our analytics and market data. So here is almost all industries who work in mobile. This is games, social, media, platforms, investors, and advertising. So the top companies working with us. We have 3 products. It's analytics, store stats, and intelligence. Analytics product is for your own apps, so you can track your own numbers, all downloads and revenues for your own products. Also, we support mobile advertising, so you can add your advertising platforms such as AdMob. Now we also you can also add Facebook and track your spendings and earnings on Facebook. Also, we have Store Stats. Store Stats is a product where we collect the data from 2010, and we providing this data to our clients. This data is about how apps growing, what the ranking of the app every day, every hour. So you can go and check any single app for the previous years, how they grow, how they move in the market. Our premium product is Penny Intelligence. So this product, we given the real estimates, like 90% correct figures for the market data. So we can say how many downloads and revenue estimation for any single app. If you're interested on intelligence, you can go online and to appenny.com/intelligence and check all the details. Here I want to also describe some trends in app stores. This slide is about shares in mobile and portable consumer spendings on App Stores, Google Play, Apple App Store, Google Play, and optimized game handheld. So if you see here, leading here is iOS App Store for sure. It grows like 60–70% for the recent year. If you see on Google Play, it's also growing fast, and it already reached the numbers of iOS for the recent year. So it may be next year will be more interesting. If you see on gaming consoles, so it's not growing, just it's charted for the current period. So you see the difference for mobile and previous generation of gaming platforms. If you see on downloads and revenue shares for iOS and Google Play in gaming, so you will see that downloads for September 2013 and 2014, it's a difference. So Google Play is starting to gain more downloads from in percent for games. If you see revenue is almost the same coefficient, like it's still more for Google Play. So in percent, it's like that. If we see on real numbers, indexed real numbers, iOS is growing for the previous year. So Google Play also grew significantly. And if you see on gaming industry, it's leading like monetization. They earning only like 30% on top for Google Play. If we see on in-app purchases, here is really interesting data. For iOS App Store, games are using they gaining more in-app purchases for platforms. So here is the growth like 50% on top of the previous year. If we go outside of the games, it's also growing, but not that much. For Google Play, it's almost the same. They're also growing, but growing much faster for games categories. But outside the games, you may see that apps without in-app purchases, they going less than apps within in-app purchases. So a little bit more about country trends. Here is the top countries for September 2014 in terms of downloads for games. Here is the interesting data that Brazil and the United States and China, they gaining the most significant numbers. So if you see for Google Play downloads, it's more like US, Brazil, and Russia. If you see on iOS, it's more United States and China. The different situation is for revenue. Revenue is leading by Middle East, Eastern countries like China, South Korea, and Taiwan starting to grow. Here they moved to 10th rank. So Japan is still leading everywhere in terms of revenue. Also United States following the Japanese trends in terms of revenue, they are also big one. If we go to how the market moves in iOS for App Store, iOS App Store, it's not big difference. So some kind of Japan pushed UK in terms of downloads, and China moved also UK in terms of revenue. But if we go to Google Play, so it's completely different situation. Brazil getting more and more powerful in terms of downloads, so it's most emerging market, and Mexico and Turkey and Indonesia, that's emerging today really fast. If we go into and see for revenue in terms of revenue, it's not a big difference. So after developers after they realize how to monetize all users for Russia, Mexico, Brazil, and other emerging countries, they will gain more revenue for these countries. So the main trends is leading countries. So it's Japan and US, China, how to launch for iOS. So if you launch in China, you better choose third-party stores. You see South Korea also. You need to develop Google Play for South Korea, and for other countries, you also you see the emerging markets. It's Germany in terms of revenue, and current Mexico, Turkey, Indonesia, and Brazil. They huge grow now. If we go to device trends, it's also interesting slides here. We see that iPhone and iPad in games, they split really more for in bigger part for iPhone in China and the US. In Japan, you see the iPads, they're really low. So if you need to go to Japan, you better concentrate on iPhones, on the smaller devices. Almost 30% of all iOS games downloaded by iPad. But in terms of revenue, it's almost different situation. Here is interesting that I go back a little bit just to point your attention on Russia. Here is Russia getting 30% downloads for iPad compared to iPhones. But if you see here for Russia for revenue, iPad's getting the same revenue as for iPhone and iPads. The main markets is the same: US, Japan, and China, and also UK. UK is losing position for recent months. So here is revenue, no big difference. But anyway, you concentrate on biggest market like China, Japan, and the US. If we go to subcategory trends, here is also interesting to see that for iOS, action and arcade games, they generate more downloads. But if you see for revenue, action's still like on top of that. Role playing is also a huge revenue for iOS. If you work on these categories, you better you see what you want to do, what you need to do. In Google Play, it's almost the same situation, role-playing strategy, but little bit different names of categories. And if you see the action category in terms of downloads, also high, but not that high as like for iOS. And in terms of revenue, it's also top 5, but in like role-playing and strategy and puzzle and casual games, leading there. Speaking about indexes, we making indexes every month, every quarter, and every year. We make articles about the most interesting products in the store. So here you can see that Sega they produce a Crazy Taxi, so they really growing fast. If you see, also here it's interesting that. Flappy Bird, next product, like the, sorry, not able to read the name of the author. They also growing fast, so they having huge amount of downloads. Also, Godus app. It's the app of game designer who used to work on God Game and Dungeon Keeper. You may know him, Peter. Molnox, so they also gaining momentum in terms of downloads. They publishing with the Dana in Japan, so it's interesting. If we see in terms of revenue, after SoftBank, after they acquiring Supercell, they leading the revenue charts, so they're huge now. If we go to Long2 and Current Legends, this new project, so they go in Taiwan. They also launched in Hong Kong, so like they making huge advertising in this region, so they gaining a lot of revenue from these new regions. If we see top companies, so here is not surprised that SoftBank for revenue, the first leading position because of acquisition. If we see in terms of downloads, it's still the like top companies like Gameloft, King, like they moving fast. You see here that Tencent moving like Taptail, they growing really fast. So they moving different their competitors from the top downloads. If we see for revenue, the big changes in the bottom, the Tencent, Electronic Arts losing position, given Chinese publishers getting more and more shares in terms of rankings in revenue. Yes, that's it. Like I have only, it was only 20 minutes deck. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will be able to answer almost all questions. I see here somebody. Any questions?
You showed the graph for the difference between the iPhone and iPad. Is there any graph for the Android-based platforms between the phones and the tablets?
So we don't have this kind of data because if you see Apple, they split between iPad and iPhone. Google doesn't split that, so we not able to give this data. So we do like analysis based on data from the stores. Yes. So if you have questions about like specific markets, specific products, also feel free to ask. No questions?
Maybe I have a question. What kind of advice would you give to the developers in the room if they need to choose iOS, Android?
Yeah, you see here that Google Play is really growing now. So if you're going to develop your game in the next year, so you're going to launch next year, maybe you better concentrate on Google Play because you see the difference. So like Google Play, they growing faster than iOS. iOS still leading, but Google Play is faster. So if you try to do for next year like Google Play things, like it's more like more countries you can penetrate with Google Play, like Eastern countries. I think it will be better in the next year. But still, if you're sure about your product, if you're sure about your monetization model, so you develop for iOS. Just if you try something new, you better go for Google Play. If you want money, go to iOS.
Windows platform is still not relevant in the charts.
Yes, still like they growing. Also, we like you can track our indexes, and after we add Windows, it means that Windows gain momentum. So you need to develop for Windows also. But now you can get good money from Windows, but it's not that competitive as the top leading markets. Yes, the same for Amazon. So Amazon huge, yeah, like if you see on Amazon itself. But if you compare to Google Play, it's not really relevant to the top stores. That's it? No questions? So yeah, we finish early, so you have more time for lunch.
Thank you for Leonid.
Thank you.
Thank you.